Hi, thanks for joining. My name is Emilie Whittemore, and I am a physical therapist that travels full-time with the U.S. Snowboard Halfpipe team. I have been practicing since 2014, and since that time, I've been practicing with athletes from a variety of different levels, from recreational to elite and professional. I started working with the Canadian ski pipe as well as moguls team in 2017, and that's really when I found my passion for skiing and working in sports. I do, however, also work with a lot of runners, so that's why I'd like to speak to you today about running and the benefits of warming up and cooling down to that sport specifically, as well as just to any sport in general. So I'd like to start by going through the benefits of why we bother warming up and why cooling down as well. So why do we warm up? Well, essentially we want to improve our performance. We want a faster muscle contraction time, faster reaction time, and improvement in our muscle strength and power. And evidence shows that we can achieve all of that with even just a short warm up. Additionally, we can increase our blood flow and improve our oxygen delivery to our muscles that'll be used during the activity. And blood and oxygen are just essentially the tools that allows our muscles to function and continue to function as we continue with our activity. Additionally, it allows us to get our head in the game, so improves our psychological preparedness for that activity, essentially, and ultimately reduces our risk of injury. I think one of the best ways to reduce your risk of injury is to be physically prepared for the sport that you're about to do the appropriate progressions, the appropriate lead up to whatever it is your goal is and where you're trying to get to and how to get there. So those are the most important things to think about. But additionally, for the day, reducing the risk of injury, a warm-up can really help out. Elements we want to consider, again, we're talking about running today, but this can expand to a variety of different exercise and activities. We want to look at our mobility, so improving our mobility, cueing our strength, as well as activating our stabilizer muscles, so our core and our hips. And then we also want to focus on balance. And then perhaps what I think is the most important is our reaction time. No matter what sport we're doing, what activity, we need to incorporate some element of reaction time. And I feel that that's often overlooked. And so this is something I'd like to address, and I have an easy way for us to address this today. If there aren't any questions, we can just dive into the 8 different warm-up exercises I have prepared for you today, and we'll just go through them. Okay, so we're going to start with, a caveat to all my warm-ups and cool-downs is I try to keep them equipment minimal and also sort of simple movements that are very similar and functional to the activity that we're about to be doing, because that way it warms up the appropriate muscles and cools down the appropriate muscles. Okay, so we'll get started. So my only props I have today is a book that I will use as a step and also a pillow that I will use for my cool down. So I will put those over here. So the first one I like to start with is something global, so arm swings. So we're going to be doing this one first, and we're going to do it in alternating fashion. So there's definitely different ways that you can do arm swings. What we want to do is start with your feet hip width apart. We want to tighten up our tummy muscles or core, get a nice ring of stability through our hips, through our pelvis, and through our tummy muscles. And then we're going to swing our arms back and forth like so. And with this, you should feel some rotation through your upper back, but try not to let your whole body rotate. So we want to try to keep that trunk forward, sort of similar to how we'll be when we're running, okay? Now there's different paces to do this, so I can show you from the side as well. So we're looking at, we can hold our arms up in the air to sort of slow it down, or we can speed it up. You can move with breath. Any way you'd like to do it, you can vary it. That's probably the best way. Just to get your body warmed up a little bit. So that's first. As I said, we'll do about 10 each side. And if you want, you can go a little bit longer, but 10 is usually a good place to start. Next, we're going to start warming up our lower extremity. So we're going to warm up our hamstrings, which are the muscles that bring our hip back and bend our knee. So we're going to do hamstring ground gathers. I like these for skiing as well, but they're great for running. So what you want to do is we'll extend, I'll do my right leg first. You're going to put your heel down, toes up, and bending at the hips, hinging at the hips, core tight, back straight. We're going to be coming down and as if we're gathering let's say some water from the ground. We're going to be left leg forward, switching, and then bending down, gathering from the ground. And you can do this walking, or you can do this stationary. But essentially with this, you should feel a stretch in your hamstring. Come from the other side, stepping forward, coming down. I'll show you from the front as well. As you step forward, you want to keep your hips level. We don't want them to be dropping down on one side or the other, and then coming forward to the ground like that. This is another great one that you can do with breath, and you should feel it kind of coming through the back of your leg. If that causes you any pain in your low back or any pain in your leg, just back off a little bit. Again, for those, I like to keep it simple and just do 10 each side. Next, we're gonna get down to the floor for a few exercises. So this next one I call, for lack of a better term, dog peeing in a fire hydrant. So we're gonna get in 4-point. Our knees are gonna be hip width apart, and our hands are gonna be underneath our shoulder. We're gonna have a flat, neutral back, and head in a neutral position. We don't wanna poke your chin out too much. And with this one, we're gonna be doing, I'll start with picking up my right leg, keeping my hips stable. We're gonna pick out our right leg like this. So we're using our hip AB abductors, and then we're gonna be using our hip extenders, or our bum muscles, trying to keep our back flat. People have a big tendency to arch the back on this one. Keep it nice and flat, coming down, and then coming back up, out to the side, and then down. This will fire up our core and get our hip working. This one I actually say I like to do about 5 on each side, because I want you to do them nice and slowly. If you do them too quickly, you're not engaging the right muscles, and then that can lead to a little bit more low back tension and injury. So we'll do another one from this angle. So hip is coming out to the side, and then back. And then to the side, and then down. Same thing there. And again, when you're bringing out to the side, don't try to lift your hips up. Just keep that back flat. And again, those 5 each side, do them nice and slowly. Those will really get your glutes warmed up. Now that we've warmed our core and our glutes up in what we call open chain, we're gonna close it down, okay? So we're gonna get those hip muscles working, but on our side. So we'll do side plank. I like to do this on my knees before an activity. Some people are fine doing it on their feet, and I can demonstrate that as well. So what we're gonna be doing is body in line, so no bend at the hips. On your knees, up on your side, so elbow should be underneath our shoulder and head in line with our body. What we're gonna be doing is arm up, we're gonna be rotating through. So what this does is it fires up our obliques, allows some of that what we call thoracic, so mid-back rotation, as we are using our bum muscles to hold us up and stabilize. Again, I like doing this one through breath, and I would say you can do this 10 times each side. The alternative on our feet, we have 2 ways. We can either put our feet out straight and stack them, or we can put one in front of the other, and then use those. Same thing, body in line, and then rotating through. You're using your shoulder as a support. If you do not have good shoulders, and that hurts, you can actually just end up doing the same thing in the 4-point like we had been before, opening up with rotation. And that's just another option. All right, next we're gonna be doing balance. So we're gonna be getting back on our feet again. For balance, what we're looking at is single leg. And so rather than just doing single leg balance, eyes open, static, we're gonna do it with leg movement to mimic more of running, okay? So I'm starting to balance on my left leg. My hips are level, then one is not dropped or raised. Staying nice and level. My trunk is upright. I'm not leaning from one side to the other. Core is engaged. Toes are not curling. They're nice and relaxed. And then through that, slow or fast, I can do some hip flexion, meaning hip bending, and then coming down into extension, meaning coming back. Now, after 20 seconds of this, if I'm feeling pretty bold, I can then do it with my eyes closed, which then allows us to use our body to tell us where we are in space, and will also help with our ability to respond to unexpected bumps in the road, rocks, or other things like that. So straight from the side, we'll stand on our right leg. Again, body is stacked in line, abs engaged, no leaning, and then we'll do hip flexion and extension like so. Down, up, down. And then again, eyes closed. For those who like to do 20 seconds each. Okay, next one, progressing on from that, is knee hugs, butt kicks with lunges. So alternating, again, what we'll do is challenging our balance, up, hug our knee to our chest, try not to dump too much in the low back, keep that core engaged, low back flat, and then bringing, for me, that's my left leg forward, and then coming down into a lunge. Now, with lunge, what we want to see is knee at 90 degrees. Okay, so coming back up, do that again. Right leg, knee hug forward, down, and then lunge. Then what we can do after 2 of those is a butt kick. Bring your leg up, stretch the quad, and then back into a back lunge. Butt kick, back into a back lunge. Knee hug, forward, and then you can also alternate by doing butt kick, back, lunge. I like to do 5 knee hugs, 5 butt kicks on each side. One thing that I think is also neglected is our calf muscles. I don't know how many times you've gone for a run and maybe had a little sore calves in the middle, and that's just because we need to warm them up. And with running, what we want to do is warm up our calves with them on stretch, what we call eccentric calf exercises. So on a step, I'm using a book, but on a step or a curve, with the edge of the curve around the ball of our foot, what we'll do is we'll come up on both of our legs. Then we're going to be bringing one leg off. Right now, it's my right leg off. And I'm lowering down slowly on my left, dropping my heel below the level of the foot. So therefore, I'm getting that stretch on my calf, but it's under load, so it'll be really good for it when you're running. So we'll do the same thing on this side too. Coming up, lowering down, coming up on 2, down on 1. So I like to say that, up on 2, down on 1. It'll essentially be the same stretch as when we're running and we're pushing off, like so. We're getting that stretch to the calf. For those, I like to do 10 each side. Seems like a lot, but it's really important since we're spending half of our time in one leg when we're running. And then the last one are compass jumps. This will get our reaction time going as well as our heart rate, cardiovascular system going. This is ideal if you have a running partner because your running partner can challenge you a little bit. So I want you to imagine that you are standing in the center of a compass. Okay, north is in front of you, east on your right, south behind you, west on your left. And what you can say to your partner, what your partner can say to you is give you a direction to jump to. You can keep it simple by yelling north, so your partner jumps north, or east, however you want to do that. You can also mix it up a little bit by saying, northeast or southwest, so you have to think a little bit more in those diagonal planes. You can do jumping with 2 legs, or if you feel really comfortable, you can do the jumping with 1. An example would be 20 to 30 seconds, where your partner says to you random directions, and you have to respond and jump to them as fast as you can. So for example, I'm saying south, jump south, west, okay, southwest, northeast, those types of things. And then jumping back to the center. If you're on your own and you've got a great song to the beat, you can just call out random directions and have yourself respond. Or a friend of mine just told me she can pre-record it, which is great too. And then you can respond to it as such. Doing that for about 30 seconds twice can be really, really helpful just to get, again, your body and your brain ready for what you're about to do. So after about 10 minutes, you should be ready to run at that point. And that would conclude your warm-up. And then you're on your way. So then the next thing that we're going to talk about, if there's any questions with that, just shout them out. But the next thing we'll talk about is cooldowns, if not. And cooldowns are honestly equally as important as warm-ups because essentially what we want to do is after we finish an activity with our heart rate elevated, we don't want to just go from up here to down here very quickly. We don't want to just stop and sit and do nothing. We want to gradually decrease our heart rate. And the reason is because we want to prevent blood pooling in our legs. If we do that, we get that blood pooling without the gradual heart rate decrease. We can get a drop in blood pressure, dizziness, and sometimes even fainting, especially if we're dehydrated, which sometimes we are after cardiovascular exercise, especially if we've been running for a while. Additionally, we want to clear out lactate buildup. And essentially, lactate is just the byproduct in our working muscles and the limited oxygen supply. So what we tend to feel is, that burning in your muscles. Well, it's accumulation of that lactate as well as a drop in pH. So it's a little bit more of an acidic environment. And a cool down can help clear all that nasty stuff out. And by doing that, we can reduce the likelihood of us getting delayed onset of muscle soreness, which is DOMS. Just that, day after exercise, super stiff feeling that we kind of get after maybe we've done a new activity or done something that we haven't done in a while. This can help reduce that. And then finally, it'll improve our recovery time, meaning we'll be able to get out there tomorrow, maybe run the same distance without any issues compared to if we hadn't had cooled down, we might need to take an extra day. So the best way to cool down, like I said, is to gradually reduce that heart rate. So if we're running, the easiest way to do that is just by walking to finish our run for about 10 minutes. An easy way to do that is just to stop a few blocks before the house and then do a little circle, just trying to bring our heart rate back down to resting and just allow our body to kind of flush out all of the cellular buildup that we want to clear out. Another way to do that is if you have a stationary bike at home, you can just do like a quick spin. Again, really like low resistance, fairly slow RPMs, not too fast, maybe around 60, just 10 minutes to kind of flush things out. The next thing I like to do is drawing from a yoga page, is just a downward dog flow and going through that about 5 times. So I'll walk you through that. So for downward dog flow, what we want to do is get in the downward dog position. This will feel really good for our shoulders as well as our calves and our hamstrings. So we can kind of walk that out, pushing back through the shoulders, kind of trying to have that flat back rather than that arched back with straight legs. Taking a deep breath in here, we can exhale, come over our arms, and then lower down. On our next inhale, we can come up. And so that extension, we can drop our shoulders down. We can come up really high if that feels good. If that doesn't feel great on our backs, we can just come down low. And then pushing back into child's pose. And then taking a nice deep breath here. And then coming back up, back into downward dog. And again, I like to say, doing that about 5 times, nice and slow. You can do it with breath. You can even go take a couple breaths in each position. Just kind of slow things down. All right, now kind of moving on to our hips. They take a lot of impact when we run. So it's good to kind of move them around, almost thinking about looping them up afterwards. Again, just trying to be good to our joints, get them moving, clearing out any of those byproducts. Sometimes we can get some inflammation in our hips. Keeping them moving afterwards will help clear that out. So if you've got tight hips, a good place to start is sitting in the V position like so. Back flat, knees bent, and just doing gentle windshield wipers. You can have your hands out to the side to stabilize, and then bringing your hips from side to side like so. If that feels pretty easy for you, one thing you can do is the 90-90. I like this for skiing as well. Facing forward, front hip. This is my left leg out in front of me. Knee at 90 degrees, foot at 90 degrees. My right leg, 90 degrees from my body, 90 degrees bend at the knee, 90 degree bend at the ankle. And then moving, arms out forward, keeping rocking on our hips, pelvis, and then going from the other side. So another way we can show you that is here. Again, in that 90 degree position, and then coming there, back and forth. Now this moves our hips through what we call internal and external range of motion. It's really good to lubricate our joints, especially after a run. Doing that for about 5 each direction, nice and slow, again, moving with our breath, is great. Now this is the time for static stretching as our cool down. Some people, talk about static stretching, meaning holding a stretch for a period of time is good for warming up, and the evidence shows us that it's much better for cooling down afterwards once our muscles are already warm. So the next one that we'll do is a couch stretch. So we're going to be stretching our quads as well as our hip flexors. And I'll show you what you'll do with the wall. So if you can imagine that the wall is behind me, my hand is the wall. You want to back up so your leg is bent like so, and that'll be a good quad stretch. Then you're going to take your front leg, your opposite leg, and bring it forward. So with that, we're getting a stretch not only through our hip flexor, but also through our quad. If it's easy for you to do it like this, you can do it like that. Again, making sure that you're not arching too much through the low back. You're keeping your core nice and tight, so you're actually maximizing the stretch through the front of the leg. Against the wall, I switch legs. That'll look like bending now my right leg and bringing my left leg forward, and then being in a lunge position like so. Again, keeping shoulders down, using my hands for support. If I need to be by like a desk or a chair or a tree or something like that, or a wall, I can do that as well. Typically, I like to hold static stretches for anywhere from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. So you want to try to find a space where it's strong but comfortable sensation. Then you can do that on both sides. The next one is just a very basic hamstring stretch. We warm them up. We use them a lot when running, so it's a good thing to stretch them out and cool down. One way to do that is to extend. I have my right leg out. I have my right foot flexed. I have my left leg bent in. I'm rocking forward on my pelvis, keeping my core engaged, chest tall, and I'm reaching out towards that flexed toe. If that feels too aggressive of a pull, you can actually point your toe. Just be gentle, maybe give a bit bend of the knee. You want to keep rocking on your pelvis and even just lean forward into that. So I'll show you from the side. One thing I see a lot of people doing when they're doing hamstring stretches is really bending through the back. That's not really rocking the pelvis forward, getting into the hamstring as well as we want it. So you want to think about rocking forward, tummy tight, leaning forward until you feel that stretch in the back of the leg. And then if it's comfortable, then you can lay down into it, or you can just stay up tall and hold that stretch. For me, I can grab my toe, but it's much more comfortable if I just grab my shin. And again, I'm not really pulling me down too far. I'm just letting my body take me to where it feels strong but comfortable stretch. I'll show you from this side as well. So I'll extend my left leg, again, rocking forward on my pelvis, reaching and keeping my chest tall. And again, I'm feeling that stretch mainly in the back of the leg, sometimes a little bit on the inside of the leg, and that's okay too. Again, holding those for 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Next up, inside of the legs, the groin, butterfly. These muscles are tight on a lot of folks, and especially for our hips, it's a great thing to stretch out. So after we've done our good mobility, we want to think about stretching out those inside of the legs by just doing a static hold of butterfly. Some people like to fly the butterfly wings. I just like to hold it. You can do this in sitting, or you can do this laying down on your back by bringing your feet together, walking your hands down slowly, and dropping your legs out from side to side. This can be a bit aggravating for people's sacrum, so kind of in behind the bum there. So sometimes sitting is better for folks, but you can try and see if it feels good for you. Again, 30 seconds to 2 minutes is great for that as well, as it will be for our next stretch, which is the pigeon. If you've done yoga, you know this one. So it's going to be similar to our 90-90 hip position, where our front leg is going to again be in that 90-degree position. But this time we're going to be swinging our back leg back like so. So we're getting a stretch not only into our bum muscles, but also into the hip flexor again, just in a different position. Once you find this comfortable position, try to keep level. You don't want to be rocking from one side to the other. You just want to be holding in this position. Sorry, I have a notification that I just need to clear. Thank you. Holding your leg in front of you in this position, and then you can sink down into it. If this feels kind of uncomfortable for you, you can put a pillow or a block underneath, or you can just hold yourself up in this position like so. Again, thinking about those shoulders. Mine always tend to creep up to my ears, so I have to remember to bring them down back and keep my core nice and tight to protect my low back. And you can do those on both sides for that same amount of time. Okay, guys, 2 more. After we've ran, we really want to try to encourage some of the mobility that we have in our upper back, and see if we can open that any more and just try to, again, get things moving and cleared out. So I'll demonstrate by laying on my left side with my left leg straight. I'm going to have my right leg bent, and I'm going to be putting something about foam roller or pillow height just to keep my hips nice and level. I'll have my top leg, my right leg bent to 90 degrees. And I will have my left arm that I'm laying on 90 degrees away from my body straight. I will be putting my right arm on top of my left, and then I'm going to be drawing a clock, counterclockwise, around my body. I do not want this right leg to slide off my pillow or move at all, because we want the motion to happen just in our upper back. So we sweep our arm through, trying to draw a clock on the ground, and then coming through. Now this can be nice and slow, taking the duration of really 2 slow breaths. And then we'd like to do this about 10 times each direction, really trying to push that rotation. And then repeating it on both sides. Last one, finishing on our back. We should be really lowering our heart rate down by now, kind of calming down a little bit. It's just doing these to chest. So taking that pillow, putting it underneath our heads, we can be bringing one knee up to our chest and hugging it in tight. In this position, we have the option of bringing it out to the side or in towards midline. Again, maximizing sort of that lubrication of the joint, just being good to it after we impacted it for a period of time, and then switching out. I like to do these with really 3 slow, deep breaths each side and repeating that 5 times, and then finishing off with both knees in towards our chest. Really, you can lay there as long as you'd like, but after that, you're pretty much cooled down and recovered. That will probably take about 15 minutes, including that cool down walk or spin, whatever you decided to do. And honestly, some people say, 15 minutes for a warm up, 15 minutes for cool down is a lot of excess. However, the benefits it has on your body is really not too long, and you'll notice them. So I highly recommend that you start to incorporate this, or at least elements of this, into your activities, whether it be running, whether it be skiing, snowboarding, hiking, surfing, skateboarding, whatever. So that's what I have to offer. If there are any questions, please let me know, or I will be sending out a PDF of all of these exercises, just so you don't have to commit them to memory. And with that, you'll have my contact email. So if you have any questions or concerns, or questions about what type of exercise or warm-ups you should be doing, I'd love to chat with you about that. Additionally, I am offering through Invincible a 6-week remote coaching program. So if you are struggling with an injury or wanting to get back into running but not really sure where to start, with COVID shutting things down again, perhaps the gym is inaccessible, I'd be more than happy to discuss with you about ways in which we can problem solve and work together to get you to where you want to go. And so I have this essentially 6-week functional prehab program that I'm offering, and it's heavily emphasized on customization for me to work with you one-on-one, doing a program, a 5-day-week program for you to get back to where you need to be. So if you have any questions about that, you can also click on the link that I'll send you in the email on the Invincible website. And we can even book a free 15-minute discovery call just to chat about if that program would be right for you. So if you have any questions or concerns, let me know, and I'd love to chat with you. And otherwise, I hope you have a great night. Thanks so much for joining.